Some rod builders will use 5-minute epoxy for the cork ring handles. I personally don't like to. It dries really quick, a little too quick for my preference, and doesn't dry quite as hard. A slower curing epoxy will set up a lot harder and give you a much better surface that's easier to sand and shape, which comes in handy. All right, now we've got that mixed up. Now again, our first piece was the composite piece, and we weren't able to get the exact size we wanted, so we had to use a little bit of masking tape to bush up the rod blank so this piece fits snug. It's not the ideal way to do it, but for the sake of the video, it's also a good point to demonstrate, building a rod is up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Ideally, would have rather shaped the composite ring just like our other cork rings here, but it's not going to hurt that we have a little bit of tape down there just for that one ring. I'm going to take my brush, dip it in our glue. First thing I'm going to do is take our end cap here and secure that in place. Just place a little bit of the glue on the cap. All right, I've got our glue on our cap. Go ahead and slide it up in the blank. And we want to give the blank a spin as we do this to make sure our glue gets all the way around the inside of the blank and it forms a good strong bond. All right, now we've got our butt cap on there. I'm going to take our glue, put it on the blank. Again, normally we wouldn't have tape there. We just had to build that up a little bit, but it's not going to hurt anything. And put some on the inside of that cap. Whatever you're using for a butt cap there or an end piece, you need to make sure that your bottom ring bonds to it as well. And we'll just slide that on there, give it a little twist. And our first ring is in place. And one way to tell, to make sure that your cork is sealed on there for your first piece, is you'll see a bead form where the epoxy pushed out. That way you know it's sealed. You're not going to get any water in there, and you're going to form a nice strong bond. Your other rings, you won't be able to tell that or see that. All the way around, as well as our rings. And slide our next ring down, nice and firm, good to go. All right. And again, while you want to make sure you have plenty of epoxy between the rings, you'd rather have too much than not enough. The less epoxy that you have coming out between the rings, the easier it's going to be to clean this thing up and shape it when you start sanding it down. But ultimately, you'd rather have too much epoxy and have to wipe it off than not enough and not have a secure bond. All right, now we've got our rear grip just about finished here. I'm going to slide this last piece down. And you could go ahead, put your real seat on and your foregrip, but what I want to do is go ahead and stop right here and clean up my excess epoxy. Everything goes a lot smoother if you keep it clean as you go. In every aspect of rod building, is epoxy sets up and it can be a bear to get off. So all I'm doing here is just taking some rubbing alcohol on a paper towel I'm just going to wipe the excess off. Even if all you do is smear some of the epoxy around, or at least if it just seems that way, you're getting some off, but ultimately what you're doing is you're eliminating high spots where the epoxy will be a little harder to shape as opposed to the cork. So you'll eat away cork in those areas rather than epoxy. And by kind of leveling out the epoxy on the outside, you're going to get a nice smooth surface when you start sanding. On this reel seat, in this instance, I'm going to use a polyurethane arbor. What this is it's actually a hard cell as opposed to tape or any other kind of foam. This will transfer sensitivity, almost as good as if this reel seat was originally molded directly to the blank. So what we're going to do is I've chosen the right size reel seat arbor. This is a size 17 reel seat. This is a size 17 reel seat arbor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this arbor right inside of my reel seat, let that set up and cure, and then I'm going to come back and ream the inside of the reel seat with the arbor already epoxied in it to slide down onto our blank. Alright, now that we've got our reel seat ready and our arbor correctly sized, we're just going to finish putting our epoxy on the outside. You can use a brush, or I like to use a mixing stick. Just kind of smear it on there. Again, don't worry about going too thin or putting too much. Either way, you just want to make sure you have enough on there for a good tight bond to the reel seat. I've already scuffed up the inside of the reel seat. Just took a little file and just took off the inside of the finish. Now we're just going to push her on in there. You can see we're getting a nice bead. That means we've got plenty of epoxy, which is just what we want. And we're going to spin it as we push it down in there. Make sure that epoxy gets all the way around. We'll go ahead and seat it. That's it. What we've essentially done is built up the inside of the reel seat to where now it's actually smaller than our blank. Was just what we want, because now we can ream the inside out to match our blank perfectly. So I'm going to wipe off some of this excess epoxy and glue on the outside. Let this cure, and then once it's good and hard, we'll come back and ream it out. Now that we've epoxied our arbor inside of our reel seat, I'm going to go ahead and ream out the reel seat. All right, still got a ways to go. And when we ream it out, we want to make sure that the end of our reel seat, actually the bottom of our reel seat, which is where it's going to sit up against our butt, is actually going on first. That way it's tapered, just like our blank is tapered.